Do I have to push record?
No, it's all done. It's all going. Starting recording.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to the Next Step session. I know that you have a very busy week ahead with all of your studies. My name is Jan McCrary and I manage UQ Abroad, and I will be introducing the rest of the team in a few minutes. So up on the screen we have an approximate seating suggestion for you, so just so that you can get to know other people who have applied to go to universities in those particular regions. That's the whole purpose of this. So it doesn't mean that you have to be sitting there, but it's a good idea if you can sit approximately in those areas so that you can get to know other people. Okay, so today it is the Next Step session, and the purpose of the Next Step session is so that you have a clearer understanding of what the process is from here on out with your student exchange application. So at this point, I'd like to introduce most of the rest of the team. So some of you may have already met the UQ Abroad team. So Caroline Thompson is our team leader. She also works with students going to Europe and Latin America. Irene Hui is our exchange advisor for Asia and Asia and England. Sorry, I've got this wrong. And Eunice is looking after students going to Canada, Scotland, Ireland, New Zealand, Scandinavia, South Africa and Israel, most of the world. And Victoria couldn't be with us today, but she looks after students going to the US. Okay, so if you have any questions, please contact UQ Abroad and then the appropriate person will be responding to that question. So just to give you a rough idea of the statistics about how many students have applied to go on exchange and where they're going. So for semester 1, 2017, we've got almost 400 applications, which is about the same as we've had for the last couple of years. Prior to that, we had less going on exchange in semester 1, but our numbers for semester 1 are gradually increasing. Overall, we send almost 700 students a year on exchange. So out of those 400, we've got about 23% going to Europe. Where are the ones who have applied to go to Europe? Okay, good. You're sitting more or less in the right place. Scandinavia. Okay, good. USA and Canada. Excellent. UK and Ireland. Good. Asia. Fantastic. Latin America. Way, that's great. 3% of students going to Latin America or applied to go to Latin America. Excellent. Africa and the Middle East, that means South Africa, Israel. No one here today. Okay, New Zealand. Anyone applied to go to New Zealand in this group? No. So that just gives you a broad idea of where students have applied to go to. So first and foremost, just to give you an idea of how to communicate with us, as you can see, we've got 400 students who have applied to go in semester 1, 2017. We have about another 400 students going on exchange next semester. We have about another 400 students who are on their way back from exchange, and we also advise students throughout the year. So to make it easier for us, we would really appreciate it if you could help us by being as clear and concise as possible in your communication with us. So first of all, it's really important to know our UQ Abroad email, so the uqabroad@uq.edu.au. That is our generic email. It's an email box that we check Monday to Friday, and it's for general queries. It's a good way to get in touch with us. It's really important for you to contact your UQ email frequently. If you don't use your UQ email very often, then I would recommend that you get your UQ email routed to the email or rerouted to the email that you do use. So that's quite an easy process, but it is really important that we can communicate with you on a regular basis because we will be doing all of our communication through your UQ email. When you write to us, we would appreciate it if on the subject line you could use the following format. So put what the subject is, whether it's about your application or courses or visa question, the name of the host university that you're applying to go to, your student number, that's an 8-digit number, your last name and your first name. All of that information means that we can find out exactly who you are, where you're going very, very quickly, and that really helps us with the time that it will take to respond to you. If you contact us by phone, it really helps to leave, and you can't get us, you have to leave a message on our voicemail. It really helps if you leave your phone number if you would like us to get back to you. So if you just say, "G'day, this is Fred, I have an issue with my UQ Abroad application," we won't know who you are. So again, it really helps if you can leave as much information as possible on the voicemail, certainly a number, how we can get back to you, and preferably your student number as well, and your host university. Please, at this point, do not contact the university that you've indicated as your first preference. You are quite a long way off from having been accepted into that university, so we are the main means of communication with your first preference host university, so any questions that you have need to come through us in the first instance. And finally, in terms of communication, please join UQ Abroad's Facebook group. That's a really good way of talking to other students who are going through the process of going on exchange at the moment, talking to students next semester once they're on exchange and finding out what it's like, particularly when it comes to selecting accommodation. It's a great way to find out what accommodation some other UQ Abroad students are experiencing and what is their experience of that accommodation. Something else that I haven't got down there, but it's good to like the UQ Advantage Facebook page because there are a lot of opportunities that come up on that page as well. So the application process, so hopefully you've confirmed your eligibility, and perhaps because the semester's not finished, that confirmation isn't quite there. You will find out more about your eligibility once grades have been released at the beginning of July. You've researched and you've selected 3 possible host universities, and you've submitted your application and study plan by the appropriate deadline. So at this point, we are going to be assessing your application once grades are released at the beginning of July. So we'll be assessing your application based on the eligibility criteria advertised on our website. So looking at your GPA, your semester GPA, the number of units you've completed, and so on. So we'll also be having a look at the kinds of courses that you've selected to see whether you've selected courses on your study plan are in the appropriate semester, perhaps they're in the appropriate language for you. Are the courses that you've selected in French or are they in English? If you've selected courses that are taught in French, do you have sufficient French language proficiency as indicated by the form perhaps from your French lecturer? So we'll be looking at all of that information before we send your study plan to the faculty for their approval. So once applications are assessed, as I said, once results have been finalised, the host university placements are based on the first preference. So we look at the number of places we have available at each of our partner institutions, and of course the number of students who have applied to go to that particular institution. We then have a look at students' cumulative GPA and rank the students on that basis. If you have had a prior student exchange experience, other students have preference over you because we want to make sure as many people have the possibility of having an experience on exchange as possible. That doesn't mean that if you've had a previous student exchange experience, you won't get into that first preference university. It's just you'll be considered after other people. We hope to notify you by the end of July with whether you've met our eligibility criteria and which university will be able to nominate you for. So that is all of you except those who might have deferred or supplementary exams. That will, of course, delay the time that your grades will be released and also the time that we can assess your application. So often we get asked at this point, can I change my first preference? So the answer is no, but there are a few unlesses. So first of all, some of you may not be aware that we have guaranteed scholarships. So as you'll see, there are about 10 universities that we have a guaranteed scholarship that is guaranteed as long as you meet the rules and regulations of that travel grant, guaranteed travel grant. So if, for example, you've already put down perhaps McGill University as your first preference in Canada, but you notice that you've got a guaranteed travel grant of $1,000 if you change your preference to Calgary, we will consider that change of first preference university. But you will have to notify us about that. If you want to go on exchange for 2 semesters rather than 1 semester, so all of that information is in the spreadsheet that you could access from our homepage about the availability of places at a host university. Some of our universities, we've only got availability for 1 semester because, again, we don't have so many places and we want to make sure as many students as possible have an opportunity to attend that university. Whereas other universities, perhaps we have a lot more places because of the number of students who are coming here, and those universities have the opportunity for you to go there for 2 semesters. If you hadn't realized that in the process of your research and you now want to change to a university that offers you the opportunity of going for 2 semesters, again, that's a possibility as long as you can find the appropriate courses to take there. Another reason you might need to change preferences if you have concerns about prior convictions. And here we're talking about things like DUIs or arrests. Now, this is quite serious because it means that particularly if you have applied to go to Canada or the US, on the basis of your DUI or a previous conviction, you may not be able to get a student visa. That's not for us to determine. It would be for the respective consulates to determine that, of course, but our past experience has shown that it may be the case that you wouldn't be able to get a student visa. If you would like to change your first preference university for any of those reasons, you can inform us in writing by July 1st, and you also have to submit a new study plan. If you want to come and talk to us about any of these, then you're welcome to do so. Any questions about that so far? No? Okay. So what if you don't get into your first preference? Well, most of you have indicated 3 preferences, so you will be considered for your second preference and then your third preference. If we're unable to offer you a place in any of those preferences, then we'll be getting in contact with you with a list of universities that are suitable for your discipline, and we can have a chat about other options for you. Something else I would like to bring to your attention at this point, which also might involve a change of first preference university, is the New Colombo Plan Scholarship. Have many of you heard of this? A couple of people. Okay, so this is a prestigious governmental scholarship. It can be worth up to about $65,000. They're currently taking applications for the 2017 round, and it involves going through quite a rigorous selection process, and then you go and study next year at a university in Asia or the Pacific. Now, a lot of students apply for this when they're going on exchange. So, for example, to Hong Kong or Singapore, India. We had a student go to Fiji last semester as well. You have to be an undergraduate student and you have to be an Australian citizen to be eligible to apply for this scholarship. But if you are interested in more information, there are links on our website, on the UQ homepage. If you just type in New Colombo Plan Scholarship, you would get to those links. But if you want to come and talk to us about it, please do so. The application deadline for this particular scholarship is the end of June. So the application process, once you've been through our process, you've been accepted into UQ Abroad, we've indicated which university, which host institution we can nominate you to, then the next step is to apply for the host university. So we nominate you to the host university, and what's involved there is we usually write an email, or sometimes we have to fill in a form to let the host university know that we would like to nominate you. So we tell them who you are, what you're studying, and when you want to go. So obviously semester 1, 2017, so that might be the spring semester if you're going to the United States, how long you're going for, and so on. So, and then the host university sends us information about their application process, which your advisor will then send on to you. So this is why it's really important to keep an eye on your UQ emails. So if you miss that email that tells you it's now time to apply to your host university, you might miss their deadline and miss out on the opportunity. So you have to apply to the host university. In some cases, this might be a paper application. Increasingly, these applications are online, where you have to upload information or perhaps send other documents through UQ Abroad to the host university. This process can take 6 to 8 weeks once the host university has received your application, and then they send back an acceptance letter to us. Which we then send on to you. Now, a lot of students are concerned at this stage about what are the chances of being accepted. Look, the majority of our students are accepted by the host university, so I would say certainly above the 95% rate, as long as we have let the university know all of the information that they require to make that decision. However, every now and again, there are things have perhaps not worked out. Maybe it's taken longer for the host university to make a decision. Maybe we haven't found out until very late in the process that the host university is unable to accept a student in a particular discipline. So you're not 100% accepted until you get that letter of acceptance by the host university. You're then able to apply for a visa, and then once you've got your acceptance letter and your visa, then it's the time to start thinking about booking flights and so on. We will be running a pre-departure session. We just had one this morning for the students going in semester 2, 2016. So the pre-departure session will be run in November for you for going on exchange in semester 1. So applying to the host university, it varies greatly. It could be anywhere from August to October. So if your friend who is going to the United States has already applied, but you're going to Germany, don't worry. Each university has a different application deadline. It doesn't mean that just because you haven't filled in an application that you've necessarily missed it. But like I say, keep an eye on your emails. If you're concerned about the host application at all, just contact UQ Abroad and we can let you know when to expect the application. So, okay, one of the things that you need to be aware, if you're going to Japan, you do have to show continuous enrollment up until the time that you go there. So if you're planning on, if you're applying to a Japanese partner and you're thinking about taking, say, next semester off, I would advise against that because you do have to show continuous enrollment. I'd also like to mention at this point, if you're applying to the US or Canada, so people generally in that area, could you please stay after I've finished talking to everyone, because there are some specific things that I need to go through with the people applying to US and Canada. Okay, when you apply to the host university, you need to be aware that there's quite a variety of supporting documentation that you may need to supply. One of them that everyone needs to supply is an official UQ transcript. Don't rush off and get one now. Wait until your UQ Abroad advisor has told you it's time to apply to your host university, and then you can apply for a UQ transcript. We tell you how to do that, so all of the information will be in your email. Often you also have to provide proof of finances. Sometimes this is with the application to the host university, and sometimes it's at the time that you're going to be applying for a visa. In some cases, it might be a bank statement, perhaps your bank statement or your parents' bank statement, but you do have to have readily available funds to show that how much money you've got to prove to either the host university or to the consulate that's giving you the visa that you have sufficient funds to last for the semester or the 2 semesters that you're going on exchange. You may also have to write a personal statement. Now, this is not necessarily the personal statement that you've written for your UQ Abroad application. It's probably more specific to the host university about why you want to go to that particular university, what it means to you professionally, what you hope to gain from the experience. You will also have to have a passport that has at least 6 months validity. So a number of you I know were concerned when you submitted your application to UQ Abroad that you didn't have a passport or your passport had run out. That's okay, but at the time of applying to the host university, you will have to have a current passport with at least 6 months validity on it, because this is going to be the passport that will have your student visa, which may be initiated by the host university, which is why they will need a passport number, and then finalized at the consulate. Other documents may include letters of reference. So usually these letters of reference are academic letters, so from lecturers, excuse me, who know you, who have taught you either in a tutorial situation or in a lecture, just to confirm that you're a good student, or it may be a question about whether you're a good person to go on exchange, something like that. So just be aware of that. Finally, particularly European universities like to have a CV or a resume. So if you're not familiar with how to write a CV or a resume, over the holidays you might want to pop on YouTube or Google just to get a very basic CV or resume, just so that you have something ready for when you do have to submit this as part of your application. Other supporting documentation, you may have to have a medical check. So certainly for the US and Asian partners, you have to have quite a full medical check. It might involve a TB vaccine, a TB X-ray, certainly a letter from your doctor saying that you're in good health. If you're planning on going to the US and you're planning on staying on campus, you will quite likely need a vaccination record. To make sure that you're all up to date with your childhood vaccinations. With regard to accommodation, sometimes that happens at the application stage or after you've been accepted into the university, then they ask you to indicate where you'd like to stay. So during this period, it's a really good time to get on the UQ Abroad Facebook page, talk to other people who are currently on exchange or who've been on exchange to find out what they can recommend for the university you're planning on going to. There's also comments, if you have a look at students' testimonials that are currently on the UQ Abroad webpage, then have a look at what they say about accommodation. So also it's very important at this time not to plan any travel, any holidays prior to your exchange. So you have not been accepted yet. We don't know whether you're able to go or not. And even if once you've been accepted, you will still have to wait for the acceptance letter. You still will need, most likely, to get a student visa. All these things take time. And we have had students in the past who have planned this wonderful holiday, maybe they've planned a family holiday before they've gone on exchange, and those plans have been thwarted by the fact that the acceptance letter hasn't arrived or the student hasn't got their student visa, and in some cases it's not possible to get a student visa outside of Australia. So it is really important that you've got all of those things in place before you start planning your travel, if you've got time to go travel before your exchange. In terms of when will you find out from the host university whether you've been accepted, that really varies depending on where you're applying. Obviously, we have no control over that. We can only send emails to the host universities asking them when we can expect your acceptance letter. So since you're going in semester 1, if you're going to Canada, you will most likely start immediately after New Year's. And if you're going to Germany or certainly Japan, you won't be starting until the 1st of April. So your acceptance letter from the host university may not come until November. Okay, what if I don't get accepted? As I mentioned, there are no guarantees. We do try to iron out any problems well in advance, so that if one university, say if the university that you've applied to is unable to accept you for whatever reason, we can try to get you into another university. So if you can remain open-minded and flexible, that really helps with the process. And we do try to work with you as much as possible to get you in somewhere. So selecting courses, you've already been through the study plan process. You've already selected hopefully twice the number of courses that you need when you're on exchange. But even so, it's important to check those courses again shortly before you leave for your exchange. Sometimes you have to enroll in the courses before you go, and other times you'll be enrolling almost as soon as you arrive at the host university. So really, really important to check the university's website and to make sure that those courses that you've had approved at UQ are still being offered at the host university, and you'll be able to enroll in them. It's also important that you understand the full-time load equivalency system. So at UQ, a standard full-time load is 8 units, and when you're on exchange, you will be enrolled in 4 2-unit exchange codes, so representing those 8 units. And that's what triggers your HEX debt for the university. So 8 units or 4 courses at UQ has been determined equivalent to 15 credits, and that's typically 5 courses either in the United States or Canada. In the UK, depending on where you go, courses, you might be doing either 3 to 6 courses. So if you're going to Edinburgh, for example, each of those courses are typically worth 20 credits, so you would only be doing 3 courses. If you go to Ireland, the courses there might be worth, say, 5 credits each, or 5, not Ireland, that's not a bad example. If you're going to a British university, English university, Nottingham, each of those courses would be worth 10 credits each, so you'd be doing 6 courses. Europe, the standard full-time load is 30 ECTS, which could be anywhere from 2 to 8 courses. And Japan, for example, you might be doing 8 to 10 courses. So just be aware that these have been determined as the full-time equivalent to UQ. It seems like a lot because there might be a lot of small courses, but that's one of the realities of going on exchange. If you feel that doing 8 units on exchange is going to be too much for you, further along the process you can request to take a reduced load and be enrolled in only 6 units at UQ and take the 6-unit equivalent at the host university. So that would mean for the US you would be taking 12 credits instead of 15 credits. In Europe you'd be doing 22.5 ECTS instead of 30. Okay, so funding. Students who have submitted their applications to us are all automatically considered for the UQ Abroad or for the Student Exchange, scholarships and grants. So we have funding that is primarily based on merit, but you can check that information out on our website. And we also have those automatic travel grants that I mentioned earlier. Other scholarships may require an additional application. So the School of Economics has a scholarship that you have to make an application for. Engineering has a couple of different scholarships. The School of Languages and Cultures also has a couple of different scholarships, one for Spanish and one for language teaching. There's also the Westpac Asian Exchange Scholarship. If you are going to China, Hong Kong, or Singapore, you should definitely check that out. So it's only related to 8 universities, 4 in China, 2 in Hong Kong, and 2 in Singapore. But applications are open now for the Westpac Scholarship, so I would strongly encourage you to apply for that scholarship. That's a $10,000 scholarship. You'll be notified with the UQ Abroad, the Faculty of Business, also Business Economics and Law, also has scholarships for which you are automatically considered, and Science has 3 scholarships you're also automatically considered for, and all of those scholarships you'll be notified in November as to whether you've been allocated a scholarship. You can also receive Centrelink while you're on exchange. So once you've been accepted into your host university, you can request a letter from UQ Abroad. We'll send you a letter that you can send to Centrelink so that you will continue to receive payment while you're overseas. If you're not already familiar with the OS Help Loan, many people heard about this? Not many, few. Okay, so the OS Help Loan is a government loan scheme. It enables you to borrow money. It's not a scholarship. It is a loan that you have to pay back. It goes on to your HECS debt, but it enables you, it gives you a bit of extra cash that you can use for your exchange. So this year you could borrow about $6,500 if you were going to a non-Asian country. If you were going to an Asian country, you could borrow up to $7,500. So all of the information about that loan is on our website, and I would encourage you to apply by September 15th to have lots of time for the process to go through before you start your exchange. You can receive both a scholarship and a loan, so it's not mutually exclusive. Okay, just a few other things to help you get ready to go. The UQ Abroad events, we have a variety of events to help you prepare for your exchange. Sometimes we have host university visits. We'll come to UQ and then we will invite the relevant students along to that to meet the representative. We also have consulate visits from time to time, particularly Canadian and US consular visits, and they come and talk about the visa process. We have meet and greets, or as we call them now, discover sessions. And these are sessions where we put together returned UQ Abroad students, prospective UQ Abroad students, that's you, and also international students from that country or region. And this is a good time for you to ask lots of questions about where you're going to. So you'll receive all of that information from your advisor. I've already mentioned the pre-departure orientation that you'll get in November. Student visas, it's a good idea to start looking into the visa, but of course you can't apply for the visa until you've been accepted into your host university. We can't advise on specifics with visa matters because they are specific to each country, and we're not visa experts. All we can do is help you interpret what it says on the website. But if you need help in that way, then later on next semester, by all means, come in and ask us about that. With travel insurance, all students going on exchange are automatically covered by UQ's corporate travel insurance. It's a very, very comprehensive travel insurance. It will cover you for accidents and illnesses while you're overseas, including skiing, as long as you're not engaged in a professional sport, it will cover the accidents and illnesses. However, some of you may also be required to purchase health insurance through your host university. Particularly Canadian universities require you to, they have a mandatory health insurance. Some American universities also have a mandatory health insurance. So you will be paying that, you'll have that insurance as well as the UQ insurance. Just a few FAQs. Can you go in your last semester? Maybe some of you have already applied and you are planning on going in your last semester. It is possible, but we advise students that it will most likely delay your graduation, so you need to be prepared for that. So if you fail a course, it also takes some time for transcripts to come back to UQ and for your credit transfer to be processed, so all of that may delay your graduation. Can you withdraw from exchange? Yes, you can. If after this presentation you've decided, nope, I don't want anything to do with this, or I've changed my mind, something else has come up, please write to us and let us know. We will be writing to you on a regular basis particularly once you've been accepted into the program, and we're writing to you about host university applications and so on. Please, if you're decided to withdraw from the exchange process, let us know so that we don't need to keep writing to you, because I know you don't want that email, and it's just easier if you let us know. So you do need to confirm in writing. You can withdraw at any point of the process, but obviously once you've applied to the host university, and especially once you've put down a down payment for accommodation, that may become a little more complicated in terms of, say, getting your down payment back. That would depend on the different rules and regulations of the host university. International students, of course, international students can go on exchange, but if you are a postgraduate international student, you need to be aware that going on exchange may affect the temporary graduate visa eligibility if you want to stay in Australia to work post-graduation. So if you wanted information about that, you would need to contact the Department of Immigration. So, to find out more information, read testimonials, contact returned ex-students, join our Facebook page. Anyone heard of Quest? Quest? A couple of people? Quest's a great organization. It was established by returned exchange students, very, very active, has one of the largest student societies on campus, and involves getting together with a lot of incoming exchange and study abroad students on a regular basis, going for trips down to Byron, pub nights, etc. It's a great way to meet people from the country that you're going to. And speaking of which, every orientation week we run a campus tour for the incoming exchange students, and you are our tour guides. So if you're interested in being a tour guide for next semester, so that will be in O Week in July, which I think is the 19th of July will be the day of our campus tour. So we will be writing to all of you to find out whether you're interested in participating in that. Okay, so final words of advice. Look at the checklist on our homepage. Be flexible, be patient with us and with the process. Ask for help. Come and talk to us if you need to. Do have a look into your host university. Do more research, especially once we've let you know which university we can nominate you for. And also, it's really important to take responsibility. Like I say, we do email people on a regular basis, but it's important for you to email us back, and also for you to raise any concerns or queries that you might have about the process, about how you're feeling about things, about where you're going. So make sure that you take responsibility with that as well. So, thank you very much. If the people going to the USA and Canada can stay here just for about another 10 minutes, that would be great. If everyone else can leave. If you do have questions, the UQ Abroad team can take those questions just outside. Thank you very much. Okay, we got Canada and the US here. Yep. Okay, good. I'm glad to see someone's excited. Anyone applied for the University of California? A few people. Arizona State, Wisconsin, Calgary. Okay, so all of those universities have a much earlier application deadline than many of our other partners. So particularly University of California, I believe their deadline is something like the 1st of August. So we will be processing those applications first and notifying you as quickly as possible as to the status of your eligibility and whether we can nominate you for the University of California. So if you're traveling over the break, if you're going to be away for July, then I would suggest that you check your UQ emails as regularly as possible. You may even want to nominate a power of attorney so that that person can fill in the applications for you. And the reason for this is because late applications are not accepted. So if we can't get in contact with you, so for example, if we've decided that we can nominate you for the University of California, you're away somewhere, uncontactable, not responding to our emails, our phone calls, we couldn't get in touch with you, we will decide at a certain point, right, that person is not responding, obviously does not really want to go to the University of California, we will contact the next person on the list. So you do need to make sure, and that's when I said take responsibility. You've put in an application for the University of California. You need to keep on top of your emails to make sure that you can answer any as necessary. The USA application documents, yes, so they will take time to complete. The University of California application is not something that you can complete in a couple of hours. You do need to think through it. When you apply to the University of California, you will have to apply to 3 separate campuses. So many people want to apply to UC Berkeley in the first instance, but something like 50% of all exchange students all over the world apply to UC Berkeley. So you just have to be aware that you've probably got a better chance of going to one of the other campuses. But have a look at the subject choice available at all of the campuses and determine your campus selection based on that subject choice. So UC Berkeley may very well be the best place for your discipline, but you will need to argue that point. You still need to apply or submit an application for 3 different campuses. You will also have to have proof of liquid funds, as I mentioned before, so with finances, and this goes across all of the American universities. You will require between $8,000 and $15,000 US dollars. Most universities only accept original documentation, and you will need, if you're going to be using, say, your parents or maybe an uncle or aunt's funds from a bank account, you'll need to get a letter from your sponsor to confirm that. So all of that information will be part of the application. Your personal statement, particularly if you're applying to the University of California, you need to make this personal statement one of the top things that you've ever written. They base a lot on that personal statement. So part of it is based on grades, but part of it is on the personal statement. So again, it's not something that you're going to rush off at 5 minutes to midnight. It's something that you really need to take time and think through and write very carefully. Letters of recommendation also will be something that they consider carefully, and again, we'll be advising you about the kind of information that you will need to be included there. All of those documents will be needed at the time of application. So it's not a matter of submitting one part of the application, say by the deadline, and then submitting other bits of the application afterwards. Everything has to be submitted at once. And this goes across Canada as well, for all upper division prerequisites, you have to show proof of completion. So this means that because many of you, by the time you go on exchange, you've completed those introductory courses, and you are looking at taking advanced courses or upper division courses. So and many of the upper division courses at American and Canadian universities require prerequisites. So you do need to show that you have actually completed those prerequisites before they will allow you to take the courses that you are hoping to take. Now, I just want to try and get on to the university, to this website. So this just gives you an indication, again, for the University of California, for the prerequisites for selected majors. So if you are a biology major and you want to take biology courses when you're studying over there, you need to have completed these prerequisites. If you haven't taken a year of general chemistry, if you haven't got a year of calculus, you won't be able to take those advanced level biology courses. So these are not the rules that we make up. These are the rules from the host university. So business administration, typically that's more straightforward because I think a lot of business majors do macroeconomics. Engineering is one that has caused problems in the past. Calculus, general chemistry, computer programming. Okay, so you need to meet those prerequisites and have a look through all of that information. Again, once we've let you know that you've been nominated for the University of California, we can help you through this. But that's just to give you an idea of the kinds of prerequisites that you have to meet in order to take the more advanced courses at the host university you want to go to. So there are quite a few restricted programs, and again, this goes for both Canada and the US. So you do need maximum flexibility. So if you are in a fairly restricted program, or if you have, if you don't have sufficient flexibility by the time you go on exchange, because of the impacted majors or because of the very popular courses that they have at the host universities, you may not be able to get into them. In many cases, domestic students at those institutions have preference, so exchange students may not be able to get into some of those courses. So it's very, very important that you take, so next semester, don't use up all your electives. If you've got some general electives left in your degree, don't decide to use those electives up next semester. Keep them for your exchange semester. Another very important point is that you can't expect to enroll as you would here in one particular department or one particular area. So if you are, say for example, a psychology student, you're doing your Bachelor of Psych Science, you can't just take all psychology at an institution. If you're an engineering major, you can't have all of your courses in mechanical engineering. You do have to have a bit of breadth in the courses available. If your courses don't fit in with the university that we've indicated that we can nominate you to, and you've had another look at all of the courses and you're trying to work out whether you can go there, you may have to choose a new host university that might be a little bit more flexible for your degree. Just going back to the insurance, so I mentioned that all students are covered by UQ's corporate insurance, and that if you go to Canada or the US, you may be required to purchase host insurance. So Canadian universities, it's mandatory at probably about 50% of the American universities. It's also mandatory and can be quite expensive, so up to anywhere between $250 and $1,800 for the semester. You might be able to get a waiver on that insurance requirement. It's a document that gets sent to you by the host university, which our insurance office fills in, but sometimes the host university will say, well, you know, regardless of what your insurance covers, we want you to be insured by our insurance company. So, but that is a possibility. Don't purchase additional insurance until the host university confirms it would be accepted if you needed to purchase anything additional. With the US student visa, acceptance in. Okay, so the visa documents may come a lot later than September or November. You might get the letter first to indicate that you've been accepted into the university, but you might not get the visa document until late November. With the visa process for the US, you can't apply until you've received the visa letter, and that's something that's issued by the host university. You then have to travel to the consulate in Sydney to have an interview to get the student visa. So you have to have an interview in person. I've already mentioned convictions or arrests that may affect the student visa. So if you have any questions about the US visa, then it's really best to talk to the US consulate. You can't enter the US more than 30 days before the start of the semester. So once again, don't plan a big holiday before you start your exchange, because you won't be able to enter the country too much earlier than the time that your exchange starts. Okay, so for Canada, a study permit is not required unless you're going there for 2 semesters. So if you're only going to study in Canada for 1 semester, you won't need a study permit, but you would need one if you're going to be applying for 2 semesters. So if you plan to travel through the US before you start your exchange or after your exchange, you will need to apply for a tourist visa for the US, and you would have to go down to Sydney to get that tourist visa. One big advantage now is I think there's a direct flight from Brisbane to Vancouver, which will really help a lot. Before that, many students went through LA, and that started their tourist visa. So if you're doing any travel in the US, even if it's transit, you would have to get a tourist visa. Oh, and that's the end. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
The study permit, is that just for Australians who don't need a visa for 6 months, or is it just that for everyone? The study permit. So how it says in the minute, if it's less than 6 months, is that just if you're Australian? You would have to